Well, hello. How are you guys? Um, so I'm Lakeanda Jefferson, and I am going to do a Instagram live. This is my first time doing this on this platform, and I'm kind of just, you know, figuring my way around here. Kind of practicing for an IG live that I'm going to do later on a separate topic as well. But I did some practicing on my personal page, and hopefully I get this right. So, welcome to my platform. This platform is actually for familial bond psychotherapy and consultation services, where we provide a host of services for people who are currently experiencing a wide range of issues. We specialize in trauma informed care at this practice, and we see people from a range of illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depressive disorders, the wide range of them, mood disorders, and things like that. But anyway, I am a marriage and family therapist, and I do have to say that I do not own rights to the music that you may hear playing in the background because we know that the way that IG and one second, I'm going to turn down just a little bit. IG and the rest of those platforms work. Basically, if you got music playing in the background, they'll mute your video if it's copyright infringement or whatever. You don't say that. So today, I'm going to talk about a couple of myths around psychotherapy. And I have some that were already submitted from people who are on my following on my public figure page, and I'm kind of going to go from one to the next or whatever. But if you guys come in and you have any that you want to add or you want me to debunk or confirm, then you're welcome to kind of type that into the comments, and then I'll get to it as I go along. But for the rest of you who may check this out on IGTV after I post it or on YouTube, just know that you can also post the information. Sorry. You can also post your questions, hey Robert, in the comment area too, and I'll definitely check the thread once everything is posted. So, the first one is being a therapist eliminates one's chances of being an effective parent or caregiver. This is a really cool one because I did see another clinician post that she had a clinical supervisor, who told her that you can't expect to be a good mother and a therapist. Now, on the contrary, while this is a very challenging profession, being a psychotherapist that means that you're holding space for several other people during challenging times. And here's the thing, we could all go through challenging times, and we're human like everybody else. So I think being an effective parent is more of a personal quality. And so if you found that you're struggling with balancing your work life, definitely the services of a qualified psychotherapist are definitely needed there, because we do kind of talk about parent-child interaction patterns. But you would definitely need to see somebody like myself, somebody that specializes in families, systems, and that type of dynamic, because we can kind of help you navigate exploration and find the answers as to what it is that's causing the distress in your system, and then help you to identify that thing so you can remove it. So that one, I gotta say, is a myth. Being an effective parent means that you're taking out time to attune yourself to what's going on with the lives that you're responsible for cultivating. And if anything, if you are a psychotherapy professional and you specialize in systems or that type of theory, then it means that you understand that systems are definitely a connected element, but also people have to be individuals. And so what that looks like is you're allowing space for your children to grow appropriately. So yeah, that one's going to be a myth. um, The next one is all therapists come from a broken place and want to judge others. Oh, well, that's heavy. Hey, King Darkness. So I can't say what that person's experience has been with their clinicians that they've seen, or if it's just kind of like out there trying to figure out what or theorize. But I say that one is probably more opinion based. So maybe that's a fact based on the therapist that you've encountered. I would hope not, though. I don't know. I don't know every therapist who is a clinician. I don't know every counselor who's a counselor, and I don't know every social worker who's a social worker. So I can't really speak to that. But I can speak to my own personal journey. And so I could definitely say, prior to being a clinician, I was a medical doctor, and that's a little bit different than what I'm doing right now in this profession. And what led me to becoming a therapist was I came from a healed space. At one point in my life, I was extremely shattered, right, in pieces. And then after seeing so many different type of professionals in this realm, I saw a professional counselor, social worker, and mental health counselor, and coach. And then finally a marriage and family therapy professional. And so when I sought out those services, I had finally gotten something worthwhile. And for me, that's what it took to make me understand, and not only understand, but pay homage and respect to this particular, to the arts sides of this thing. And sometimes it's just that one experience, right, that changes everything for you. And so for me, I was like, oh my God, whatever training, whatever education, whatever it is that that person has gone through, I want to see if that can, is something that I can pursue at this stage in my life. And maybe I can move into that direction. That will help me help people better. And so for me, that's what it was. So I would definitely say that's more opinion based than anything, but I'm going to have to go ahead and say that's a myth, just based off of the fact for my experiences. Although I know several people who are psychotherapists and are, or have been broken, or have been in those spaces in their life, I think that most of the professionals that I know personally are pretty well balanced and calibrated, and in the spaces that they are struggling with issues in their life, they seek out the services of another professional, therapist or counseling professional or whatever. So I can't say that for me that remains true, but I think that everybody is entitled to their opinions, and if that's your opinion, then good for you. The next one is, I don't know how to add you to my live. You have to probably send me a request again, and then I'll be able to do it if that's what you're trying to do. I'm kind of new in this stuff. But so the next one is, therapists make a terrible choice for intimate partner relationships. Gosh, you guys are really... I probably should have really looked at this list prior to me doing this video. I don't know. Maybe I should have prepared myself. I don't know. I've only dated one therapist. Yeah. So I've only dated one therapist over the course of my tenure. And I don't know. He was an interesting guy. I don't think he made a poor choice or a poor selection for an intimate partner. I think that probably if we were going to be together, we would definitely have to go ahead and get married and move in and all that good stuff because our schedules are both pretty hectic. But I think that we'd make a great team. I've seen a lot of therapy married couples who are literally the epitome of goals, right? So for me, I would have to say that's a myth, and that's also something that is more subject to opinion, more so than fact checking, right? Checking. However, it is sometimes hard, I feel like, for a lot of clinicians finding themselves in relationships with lay people because for some people, they perceive there to be a power differential. And especially if the professional is a female, I've seen that be something that prevents them from moving into a space where they can really trust each other to be open and vulnerable enough to build something long standing. And so, what I'll say is probably no, this is a myth. Based on my experience being in that one relationship. And then I think, judging off of the feedback that I've had from people that I've dated, married, I don't know, they don't have those complaints. So, you know, I don't know. The next one is therapists don't need therapy. They should be able to figure it out if they are efficient therapists. Wow.
That means you have to solve your own problem.
Right. That would be really, really hard. But
you can't sit on nobody's couch. You have to sit on your own couch and figure out your problem.
Okay, so I'll say this. I think clinical professionals have a certain level of self-objectivity. If they have been doing this for a certain amount of time, I think that some of us become a little bit better or more equipped to do that and to deal with the issues that we face on a day-to-day than others. However, it doesn't mean that we don't need professional help. Sometimes we need therapists too. And to be honest with you, I personally would never want to see a therapist who's never seen a therapist themselves, who've never felt like they needed therapy themselves. And in a lot of our clinical training, for specialty trainings, for some people who are therapists who don't come from a systemic dyad that don't, or epistemology, what that means is the area that we work in. And so for those types of therapists, they have to go through additional training to become certified to do dialectical behavioral therapy or to do EMDR or trauma-focused therapy and things like that. And then that journey does require you to actually become the client. And so you have to learn what the process looks like through yourself navigating that same process, if that makes sense. So I'm going to have to call that one a myth just outright. Every therapist who has difficulty solving their issues that they're going through in life, and some therapists may be struggling with a wide range of mental health diagnoses themselves. And so keeping that in check and being efficient in the job that we do requires for us to have an outside objective eye for our helping as well. We need to be helped along the way just like everybody else. You know, we're human just like you. So the next one is personality of the therapist dictates their style in therapy. Maybe. I think that's just a sometime thing. So that's probably not a myth per se. It's true in some instances because certain types of personalities aren't necessarily going to gravitate to one particular type of epistemology. If that were the case, taking a personality indicator test would be just enough in grad school for us to figure out what you choose. But that's not true. We're all individuals and we're all different. No two therapists are created the exact same. You know, some of us share some of the similar insights that drive the theory that we practice behind, even if we have the same epistemology, and some of us don't. Yeah. So there is something else called self of the therapist. And what that means is that your personality drives the way that you deliver, the style of delivery that's been chosen for you, or your epistemology. And so for that, I would say, yeah, personality has a lot to do with how they conduct therapy. Because we're all different, and that's what makes our approaches different, even though some of them are the same approaches per se. So the next one, moving along, you guys have to excuse me, I didn't take my allergy medicine yet. Therapists expect you to be at a certain place in order for you to receive therapy. I gotta say that's not a myth, because some clinicians do require you to be at a certain space before you can receive help from them. However, because like I said, every approach is different, and then also every clinician is different. So some of us are person-centered or client-centered type of therapists, and for us, we believe that meeting people where they are is the best way to achieve long-standing results. Because for me, I'm a cybernetics of cybernetics, and that means the systems of the systems. So you're basically navigating internal systems that motivate external systemic problems. And so there are layers to change as well. And so what that looks like is, if you want long-standing change, you have to do something with the system on the inside and the way the system is functioning. So changing the mindsets or shifting the functionality of, or the roles inside of the system, changes the outcomes naturally. So you're not just looking for surface change or quick solutions to the issues per se. Hold on. I'm going to take this allergy pill. And I'm not a sponsor. I'm not sponsored by Coke. So where am I? Okay, there. So I got a couple more. The next one is, therapists are always giving unrealistic suggestions. I love this one. I think on the surface, a lot of times when we do suggest things in therapy, it may seem very unrealistic for a person who's not ready to make those shifts in their life. So I'm not going to say that is fully a myth. I think it is subject to perception, so opinion of people. And it may be true and it may not be true, Who knows? I've heard one of my clients say to me, in real life. And I'm like, what life are we talking? And it is just so interesting to me when we're exploring those areas, kind of like their ideals on what it is that they think that I'm expecting, or but then finally they get into the experience of therapy, and they're a client that is regular or consistent in treatment, and so then those perceptions kind of fade away, because they realize, oh my God, this lady's here to help me do the work. And if this is a realistic goal to me based off of the things that have helped me derive this as a goal, or arrive here at this point where this is now a goal for me, then they know what that work looks like with me, and then no, none of their goals are unrealistic, because I believe in SMART goals. And so, yeah, that's interesting. And so to the last one. Coaching and therapy are synonymous. I recently had a conversation with a group of clinicians that are in my clinical consultation group. And we kind of talked about this a little bit. And this has always been a heated debate, just in case for some of the lay people who haven't kind of seen what that looks like. If we look at like the Iyanla Vanzant response from so many clinicians, you have people getting so upset because a person is practicing as a coach. And then what I see is that so often you see other professionals naturally gravitating to attacking the credentials of a person. And so what they learned is like, this woman's a whole doctor, probably has more education than you. So here's the thing. What separates a clinician who is licensed to practice therapy and a person who isn't? Oftentimes, it's going to be a title, right? Education may be very synonymous to, a coach may have the same education, but just decided they didn't want to be licensed because there are certain restrictions that come along with you allowing that accrediting body or that licensing agency, which is typically your state, Secretary of State office, but their board may not be a good option for them, and so they enter into coaching. But coaching is very different. It's not the same as therapy. Psychotherapy helps people through proven theory, or what we call epistemological theories that have been peer-reviewed and verified to work. And so what that means is you have evidence-based practices to help heal, reveal, and things like that. So therapy is very different than coaching. Coaching is you're there for the ride. And even though you may be a therapist for a person, doesn't mean that you can't be an advocate or a coach, right? And so as a coach, you're advocating for their growth and their meeting their goals in therapy and things like that. But coaching is something that is different and is distinctive in the way that it's delivered versus therapy, because therapy, we're very objective and we're not in there, and you barely get an opinion or an insight that we have. And so you never know what we're thinking. Half of the time you be guessing, but you probably be guessing wrong. It's about us guiding you to your answers. And coaching is a little different. Hey, honey, how are you? And so coaching, we're there holding you accountable in that space. Very, very similar to one therapy model. But it's not the same because we're not objective ever. We're kind of like in there. We're asking you questions as a coach, but we're also holding you accountable and we're pushing you toward a particular goal. And then we're doing more of the what you would get from your old grandmama kind of thing. Honey, you should be doing this. Girl, now you knew when you went that way that was the wrong way to go. There is a right or a wrong, right? Versus being objective and saying, okay, well, what did you find out when you were here in your life? Or what did that do for you? Or what's coming up for you now? Or, what does that mean for you? So you got a lot more personal insights presented when you're in coaching versus therapy. And so when we're doing assessments, we're checking for your appropriation for therapy before we even initiate that process for you, which is, I think, the important thing that I want to kind of end this with. If you are appropriate for therapy, then the therapist or the counselor or whoever should be recommending that. But if you are not, at the end of your free consultation, they should be saying, okay, you know what I see here is that you're more appropriate for coaching, more appropriate for group, more appropriate for additional resources, or, hey, you know what? You did come here to get this therapy, and that's 100% your choice, but I'm not seeing anything that's clinically evident of a diagnosis appropriate for therapy. But if I offered this other service for consultation or something like that, or coaching or bridging the gap, helping you find your way to your inner spirit or whatever, then guess what? I would suggest that you do that. So get out there and get more familiar, you guys. I hope that I have debunked a lot of the myths that are presented. And if you guys have additional myths that you would like from me, or additional things that you've heard that you want to know whether or not it's a myth or a fact or opinion, then submit it to me and in my DMs, or you can email me doclqj@familiarbonds.org, and I will get back with you as soon as possible, and I'll put the things on the list, and if I don't do it, my assistant will do it. So that's pretty much all that I have, you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out to watch, and thanks for your feedback in advance. Later days.